Good morning. I'm Pastor Allen, and today is Friday, September 25th, and we are looking at the parable of the bags of gold, or some of you may be more familiar with it as the parable of the talents. And that's taken from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, verses 14 through 30. And this parable is also found in Luke chapter 19, beginning in verse 14. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have, will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay, verse 14 begins, again, it will be like a man going on a journey. Well, what does the it refer to? It's referring to the coming kingdom of heaven. And then in verse 15, it says bags of gold. Well, these bags of gold were worth 15, each bag was worth 15 to 20 years worth of wages for a day's labor. So one bag of gold would be what the workers would make. It would take 20 years to make that amount of money. And this parable is pretty self-explanatory. Use what you've been given, make money, and make money work for you through interest, through doing something. It's also known as the talents, taking your talent, the abilities that God has given you, and using those to help other people. And there will be a coming accounting of how you use the things that you've been given. And a lot of people forget that or don't worry about that. But we will one day be called into account for the things that we've been given and how we've used them. And verse 27 shows that as a fact. The master said, well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So we need to be aware of that. Now, back to verse 15. It says, to one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Now, you've heard that. You probably heard that pretty recently. Karl Marx wrote about that. And it's part of the socialist philosophy. It's wrong. And Karl Marx might have gotten that from the Bible, but I doubt it. He thinks that he came up with it on his own. But Karl Marx and socialism use that, each according to his ability, each according to his own need. The problem is socialism takes that by force, by law, by government. It takes from everybody and then it distributes it how it sees fit. Well, this verse doesn't support that. The master, the rich master, was the one who decided who got his money, his way. Socialism says, it may be your money, but we're taking it and we're using it our way. And that's one of the problems with socialism. And even though it seems like the Bible might support that in this passage, it clearly doesn't. Now, here the wealthy man freely gives his wealth away. And of course, there's the implied expectation that it will be put to work or used. But socialism just takes by law or by force. And that's why it reminds us that the gold, the talent, was given according to each man's ability. The one that the master thought would be really good at what he did, he gave 5 bags. The second one, he gave 2 bags. And the one that he didn't have a whole lot of faith in, he gave 1 bag, and his faith was not misplaced. Jesus tells us that the point of this parable, and he gives us another warning in the last verses 29 and 30. Jesus explains the point of it. He's talking about all the things that God gives us, and that God gives it to us in abundance. And then in verse 30, the servant who did nothing with what he had been given had his gold taken away. And then he was thrown out into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, this is the 6th time that Jesus repeats this warning in Matthew's gospel. And this warning, this way, written this way, is found only in Matthew's gospel. And he's telling us there is a coming judgment. There will be an accounting, and we need to be ready. And if we're ready, we have nothing to fear. If we are following Jesus, if we are Christ's disciples, we have nothing to fear. It is those that are not the Christ followers who have ignored the warnings. I'd say missed the warnings, but it's pretty hard to miss the warnings, but ignored the warnings, did their own thing, turned their own way. There will be an accounting also for them. But as it says here, most likely they will be thrown out into the darkness, and there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.